By May 16, 2017, the demons had swallowed the final patch of human land, leaving our world completely lost. Amid the fierce battle raging through the flames and smoke filling the sky, Chen stood right in the middle of the battlefield. His frozen face was covered in blood. 7 years ago, a group of demon kings, including the mighty Manhwa, suddenly fell from the sky and took over the world. They ruled over the demons and crushed the humans beneath them, sneering at one weak man who dared call himself humanity's last hope, for he saw them as nothing but trash, so he gathered a blazing red sphere of power to wipe them out and fill the air with a deep bloody crimson glow. Become my food and turn into my strength. Chen's whole body shot high into the air by a rushing stream of energy that slowly ate him away piece by piece. He fought with all his might against the cruel grip of feudalism, but he could not break free. Images of his sister, his comrades, and his master flooded Sek Chen's mind, filling it with everyone he loved most. He clenched his teeth until blood trickled from his mouth, knowing everyone had been killed by those beasts, so Xian chose to burn himself out in a final burst of golden lightning called Supreme Aurora to take them all down with him. Lanhua froze in terror as a wild burst of power pinned him, screaming, "What is this? I can't move," just as Ken's body cracked apart and he disappeared into thin air. Bits of memory flickered through his mind, bringing his little sister back to life. He would always remember his master's shadow and the warm, happy days with his parents. As everything slowly faded into darkness, Chen whispered with regret that meeting again would be wonderful if only he had been stronger before his form dissolved into a wish to turn back time and stop the first Demon King, while Lanhua roared in furious hatred only to crumble into scattered fragments right after opening his eyes to the hazy light pouring in. Chen looked up and saw the ceiling right above his head. He blinked and stared upward, lost in a dizzy haze. He lay in the room, his wrist bound tight with bandages. Chen sat up and raised his hurt wrist in puzzlement, realizing with relief that he was still alive. He kicked his feet off the bed and looked around the room, wondering just where he was. He stepped up to the window and peered down at what lay beneath. He suddenly realized he was alone in the school infirmary while the sunset painted the campus grounds gold, and his classmates laughed and played outside. Chen stood frozen, staring in shock at the impossible sight before him, wondering if the world had truly ended and where all these people had come from. It took him a long time to accept that he had somehow rolled time back 10 years to his college days. He stared at his young face in the glass, eyes wide with shock. Suddenly, flickering text appeared before him, showing a screen that read "Devour Power Fusion completed," and only then did he realize his wish had come true, bringing him back to the time before everything went wrong. Chen quickly checked his phone and saw the screen flash. 4:15 p.m., May 16, 2020. It took him a long time to really understand what was happening. I've traveled back 10 years to May 16, 2017, when he knew exactly that the first Demon King wouldn't arrive for 3 more years. Suddenly, those dark and cruel memories came rushing back into Chan's mind. 23 years from now, the first Demon King Fury will crash down and tear open the gate to hell, dragging the others to follow his lead. That was the spark that set everything ablaze, and in the end, he lost it all. Sen stared at his own hands with a blank look, then gave a faint smile as he thought, "I'm back." He was sure that if he could stop the first Demon King Fury from opening the Hell Gate, he could change everything. The screen kept showing, and the Devour Power Fusion was now finished. He stared with curiosity at the floating screen showing his new Devour Power, a strange display that had been hovering before him since he first opened his eyes. Just as Chan reached out to touch it, the screen vanished and gave way to a detailed stats panel. Every single trait, strength, stamina, elemental power, speed, comprehension, and mental might was pushed to its absolute limit. Is this a game showing off my current stats? Chen stared in confusion, for this was the first time he'd ever faced a foe who fought without his rare awakened power. He went to the National Awakened University, a school that only let in kids who showed the spark of awakening. But sadly, in his past life, he struggled to get noticed during his 4 years of college, ending up at the bottom where anyone could pick on him. Chen rubbed his chin, suddenly realizing that was why he'd ended up in the infirmary, just as the screen suddenly flipped to a new view that grabbed his attention. With a flash of lightning that courses through his body, the class lightning assassin instantly becomes 10 times faster, wielding a blade of pure electricity that deals massive critical damage and can paralyze any weak point it strikes. Chen's eyes went wide with shock as he realized the lightning assassin was none other than the class he had in his past life. His entire body shook with a strange new energy rushing through him, making him wonder if he had finally found the power from his past life and awakened sooner than before. Chen didn't want to wait a second longer to test his new strength, so just as a notification popped up about his class transfer, a loud clatter from outside made him realize someone had just opened the door and spun around to see Malong, his dorm roommate, waltzing in with a huge pile of snacks. "Wow," he shouted in shock. Then Mong hurried over with a grin to ask if he was okay, and after Chen confirmed he felt fine, Chen realized from Mong's amazed reaction that only Chen could see the hidden panel, especially since Mong checked him over and whispered that his wounds had vanished instantly, proving his healing power was even faster than his own, while Chen just smiled at his lively roommate. Even though Mong had woken up in college and still came out near the bottom of his class, he could finally see that the man who had brutally killed him in his past life was now standing right in front of him, alive and well. Malong stared at Sekshen in surprise, wondering if he's grown even stronger, while Sekshen finally relaxed and smiled, realizing for the first time that he truly was back. Malong suddenly remembered something and clapped his hands, realizing it was time for the aptitude assessment the next day, so since he was feeling better, they hurried back to get ready. He shoved Sen toward the door, urging her to go because even though you're still asleep, the graduation test is already waiting. The campus grounds remained as calm and quiet as always. Everyone was caught up in their own fun, with some kicking soccer balls and others running fast. Chen walked slowly across the training field, and after so long without seeing many living people, Malong got goosebumps and quickly rubbed his arms, asking, "What are you saying, man? That's creepy." He couldn't help but ask with a curious smile, "Bro, are we seriously just walking around the sports field?" While Si Chen stayed lost in his old memories, feeling heavy at heart because once he lost everything, and if he did nothing, that dark future would return soon enough. From that moment on, a fierce fire of resolve burned in Sen's heart, driving him to craft a plan instantly and grow stronger before his enemies could strike. He knew that the only path to power in this age was to hunt down and kill the evil beasts hiding in the rifts. But every big gap was already taken by the powerful guilds. No outsider could ever get in, so with these stats in hand, how does my strength really stack up against the other awakened beings and demons? Sort out power levels. The government ranked humans and beasts from A at the top down to E at the bottom, where most students stayed while only rare geniuses or guild elites reached the powerful A rank. But Chen suddenly felt sure he was now stronger than Mong until a basketball flew out of nowhere and smashed right into Mong's face, knocking him to the ground with a loud crash and shattering his glasses on the steps above, while a few guys lounging around laughed loudly, and one teased, "Chen and Mong recover so fast. I told you these two can really take a beating." The arrogant guy pointed and demanded, saying, "You two clearly saw me playing basketball here, so why didn't you bring a few cases of drinks?" Malong shook with fear and stammered, apologizing and promising to run out and get it right away. Sen stepped forward with a calm face and an icy voice, stating clearly that he wasn't the one at fault and that the apology should come from them. He locked eyes with the man and asked in a cold voice, "Is it this one?" while a sudden wave of old memories washed over him. In a past life, Gongchang had once shoved Si Chen headfirst into the water. He got slammed into the bathroom sink over and over again. Mong cowered in the corner, shivering and pleading to stop, while Gongchang shoved Sek Chen's head under the water and sneered, "Why stop? I'm just helping him wake up," tightening his grip as the laughing lackeys mocked the helpless scene. When Si Chen stopped moving, everyone lost interest and started shouting, let's go, it's no fun anymore." Malong dashed over in a panic and asked, "Scene, are you okay?" Water poured from his soaked hair down his face, blurring the line between rain and tears while his angry voice cried out, Why won't you just leave us alone?" Chen knew better than anyone that pure hatred lives not just in demons, but in human hearts too, like when Gongchang sneered, "What did you just say?" and calmly told his servant to beat Goen until he woke up. Gongchang went still for a moment after Xian spoke, then let out a puzzled, "Huh?" Mong's bruised and swollen face weakly asked, "Shen, what are you saying?" as the Gongcheng warrior stepped forward with glowing green energy in his arm, and his two lackeys moved in too. Zi Chen's eyes slowly turned as cold as ice while he stared quietly at his opponent. He knew exactly who this was. Gongku, a bully who hid his own lack of skill behind his older brother's reputation as the school's strongest student council president. The other students saw the fight and whispered, "Look, Gong Changing is going to beat them up again." Stepping out of the infirmary only to face another brutal attack, the pair, one barely awakened and the other not at all, were laughed at by Gong Kang as the school's two biggest losers. "And please, stop bothering us now that this is done." He clenched his fist, grinning as if to say, "Looks like you really need another beating, huh?" Zi Chan calmly raised his fist to block the blow, and it felt like no effort at all. Gam Dongshang's legs shook as he stumbled back, letting out a small groan of pain. The crowd stood stunned, wondering how he actually managed to block Gong Cheng's punch. "He hasn't woken up yet, holy crap, am I losing my mind or what?" Gong Cheng felt crushed as the crowd pointed and whispered at him, cursing the foolish challenger who dared to fight him even though he hadn't awakened. And softly collected lightning in his hand while a small smile formed on his lips, saying, "Perfect. You'll make a great test dummy." The system announced the job conversion to Sec Lightning Assassin, instantly flooding his body with divine lightning to make him 10 times faster, granting him a blade of lightning that shatters enemies with massive damage and paralysis, while his stats surged to 200 strength, 300 elemental power, and 100 in vitality, mental power, and an extra 100. Malong panicked and screamed, When the hell did you wake up?" as lightning crackled around Sek Chen while Gong Chang summoned his immortal demon armor to swell his hand to a massive size. His roar of excitement showed you just who you'd messed with. He swung his huge fist at Chen, aiming to deliver a killing blow. But then his jaw dropped in shock just as Sek Chen's fist slammed right in front of his face. Bam! The punch slammed Gong Changing so hard into the ground that he flew backward, blood spraying everywhere. All the students were frozen in shock for a split second, but one punch knocked Gong King flying. Malong stared in shock at the wild change happening before him, wondering if he was even real anymore. They looked like they were dreaming, and Gong Chang face planted into the dirt, cursing the sneak attack before barking at his frozen lackeys while Si Chen stepped forward like a grim reaper. Gong Chang, still in pain, roared that he'd kill me before Sen calmly grabbed his wrist, crushed it, and snapped his arm back. Gong Chang went quiet from the pain before screaming in agony. Jin lifted his fist, crackling with lightning, sneered, "You're trash," and suddenly the whole corner of the field lit up with a blazing storm. Gong Chang caught the full punch. His body flew like a broken ragdoll, and he landed with a loud thud. A loud crash echoed as no one expected the arrogant bully to get beaten so badly. He lay still on the ground, his clothes torn and his body covered in blood. The entire room froze in deathly silence, with everyone staring at Shen in shock while Malong shook and stammered. Zi Chenhe, when did he suddenly become this powerful? Zi Chen peeked at his status window and quickly figured out what it meant. First, just like everyone guessed, he could turn into his assassin lightning form at any moment. Just as he had guessed, the system level sat at 1, yet his base power was already strong enough to take down a lowest tier awakened, proving his current grade was better than E rank. We still didn't know exactly which rank he held, but there was one problem left to solve. He had clearly won, yet the system's score hadn't moved at all. He yanked Gong Kang by the shirt collar as lightning crackled wildly around him. From behind, the vice president of the student council, Ling Wu, gently reminded him that this was a school, and since Gong Chang had started it, her warning was enough to make him stop and drop to the ground, motionless. He glanced at Ling Wu, curiosity sparking in his mind as he wondered why a student council member was so eager to protect that guy, without meaning to finish him off. If he didn't squash them like bugs, they'd just keep coming back to bother him forever. Gong Cheng's 2 cowardly lackeys cowered behind the wall, whispering. That look on his face was terrifying. "We better not mess with him anymore. Is that guy even still Sen? Didn't those 2 have to be the poorest and weakest kids in the entire school?" asked Chen, refusing to waste another second and coldly saying, "Let's move," while Malong quickly followed close behind. Ling Wu stood behind them, whispering with interest, "The weakest and poorest, before the scene shifted that evening to the boys' dormitory. Malong excitedly retold the afternoon's events, but no one believed him. He frantically tried to prove it, shouting, "Why don't you guys believe me? Sen really awakened, and he's a super strong lightning assassin." Malong even acted it out, waving his arms wildly and pushing Gong Kang down, so now those guys won't even dare to meet our gaze. One roommate, Xiang Zuo, the nuclear mage, dug in his ear and asked in annoyance, "So where'd he go then?" Mong paused, scratched his head, and then said, "I think he mentioned going for a run." The guy jabbed at Mong's head and scolded him, wondering why someone that strong would even need to run, since awakened folks still require basic training like that, which made no sense to him. Another one. Xiang Yu, who can also shoot magic like a nuclear bomb, tapped on his phone to add his 2 cents, proving that Mong's brain was truly knocked loose. Shangshu snapped, "Wake up, we're only roomed together because we're the 4 lowest grades in the entire block, and that fact won't change. Plus, I'm forever stuck at the bottom of the dorm's rankings because everyone gets only 1 power in their life. The 2 others are just helpers, and I'm the lone fighter here with a nuclear mage ability. There's a cold, unchangeable truth out there that won't bend to anyone's wish." Si Chen with that pathetic look on his face as he wakes up as a lightning assassin, "And come on, me lately, I've been feeling way stronger and might even join a guild soon." Shim didn't care much and lazily replied, "We'll see everything clearly after the final grade evaluation tomorrow." While at the Demon Cave's entrance, a group guarded the spatial gate. Someone stepped out from inside. It was Gong Ting, the student council president, with Ling Wu trailing right behind him. He told his men to get going and left, saying training was done for the day, but just then he stopped dead in his tracks because he saw someone standing in the dark shadows. He asked, "Waiting here," while Gong Chang, still angry from the morning, ground his teeth and vowed not to sleep if things weren't fixed, noting how Gong Chang stayed calm and showed no respect for him in front of everyone. He had promised to handle everything, but while Gong Ting calmly sliced into his steak at dinner, Ling Wu asked how he planned to deal with the problem, and he replied that the other guy wasn't even on the same level, yet Gong Ting remained skeptical and wondered if those claims were true. So Ling Wu explained that since Gong Ting knew every student's power level and had already recruited all the rare D-rank users into his guild while having exclusive access to the Demon Cave for leveling up, no one else had any chance of catching up to his fast pace. While the rain poured down at night, Xie Chen ran laps on the training field. He lugged a 100 kg backpack and kept running the full 20 km without stopping. This self-made basic training strengthens the body, because an awakened person can only push as hard as their physical base allows. You needed a body strong enough to hold a job's power, but that wasn't nearly enough. In 2020, the angry Demon King burst out of his cave and started killing people everywhere instantly. He watched his only family, his little sister C, fade away in his arms as he begged the demon in a broken voice, "No, please do," while Sen burned with hatred for the man who had opened Hell's gates and let the Demon Kings invade the human world. Even though he only wanted to save him, his first real aim was to kill Furious. Furious was the source of all destruction, and he would descend in 3 more years, accelerating his growth so much that Sek Chen had to run faster just to stay ahead. Just then, his phone started buzzing right in his pocket. Qian pulled it out, and the screen lit up with an incoming call from Sean, a name that hit him like a punch to the heart. He stood frozen in the rain, hearing Xian's happy voice on the other end explaining she'd been at a competition and only just returned to find out that if she won the prize, their rent would finally be paid, a thought that made him freeze in his ruined future world and wonder if he could ever start over. When Xiard fell silent, she pressed him to speak, asking why he wasn't saying anything while it rained, only for him to vow he would face any cost or endless hell, but his gentle voice simply replied that it was nothing, causing tears to mix with the rain on Second's face as she confessed it had been far too long since she heard him, while Sean sounded confused and asked what she meant, reminding her they had just talked the day before and promising to meet up once his competition was over so she could hear his good news before he signed off. He stood in the heavy rain, letting it wash away his painful past so he could finally start all over again. Driven by the need to protect the people he loves, he pushed himself to train harder, vowing to become stronger and faster so he could keep them safe this time, only to return to his sleeping roommates 8 hours later. Chen stepped into the bathroom, slowly getting used to this young body again, and though it felt a bit weak, he knew it was the perfect place to start. Once he changed his clothes, his mind wandered with thoughts until he finally faced the most important question. He sat on the bed, worrying that leveling up meant fighting in dungeons that big guilds had already taken over. For everyone except the lucky few, climbing the ranks was impossible, leaving him wondering how he could possibly reach the terrifying demonic beasts. Suddenly, a mysterious devouring power appeared, and as he closed his eyes, a system message flashed into his mind. A blazing red screen suddenly appeared and began charging its core to 70%, with the progress bar slowly filling up. The Devour system was now active, and Chen found himself drifting in a strange, empty place with no way to tell where he was. He threw his eyes open as he plunged downward, completely out of control. He spun in the air and touched down without a scratch. Before him lay a lonely pitch-black wasteland with a huge pillar reaching up into the sky far away. Sam couldn't help but whisper with curiosity, "Where are we? Was I asleep?" as he gazed at the towering skyscraper standing solemnly in the gloom, wondering what it could possibly be. Slowly, monsters pulled themselves up from the muddy ground. They were just pale white skeletons, exactly like the Cloud Warrior's rank of undead. A system message suddenly flashed, warning that a job conversion was underway, and leaving him stunned, making him wonder if he had finally stumbled into a dungeon filled with demonic beasts. The next update arrived with the job conversion complete, marking the arrival of Level 1, Sek Lightning Assassin, who instantly forged a blade of lightning in his hand to deal with these annoying intruders first, even though the full situation remained unclear. With lightning coursing through his body, the assassin moves 10 times faster, wields a blade that strikes with devastating force, and can freeze his enemies in terror by hitting their weak spots. The Cloud Warriors rush straight at him. Chen flashed his lightning blade right into the first one's weak spot. The moment the alert rang out, 3 Cloud Warrior fangs appeared instantly. He moved through the whole group all by himself, dancing with perfect ease. With his current power, those E-rank monsters were still just an easy win for him. It felt so terrifyingly real, not like a dream at all. As his experience points climbed and the system announced his jump from level 2 to level 3, Sen watched the golden light wrap around him and finally understood the truth. He could actually gain experience and level up right here. He opened his stat panel and felt thrilled as every attribute jumped up by 5 points. He couldn't believe the cheat he was getting, having an entire dungeon all to himself just to grind. Right then, Chen met the Cloud Warrior King, the one who leads the pack. He swung his lightning blade with a fierce slash, forcing me to train harder right there and make every moment count. As you knocked out the boss, a message popped up telling you you'd earned 320 experience points. You leveled up to the next stage and now have a shiny Cloud Warrior Fang and a glowing Cloud Warrior Crystal Core to show for it. Sam grinned to himself, thinking that while the small monsters gave a few points, the leader monsters were like gold mines that made him jump 2 levels in seconds, and right then the system shouted "Devour available," so wide his eyes popped in shock. Tim stared at the words, wondered what they meant, and then slowly raised his hand. Could it be that truly eating up power means taking in dark evil things? The Cloud Warrior King standing before him dissolved into a swirl of mist. He slowly pulled it into his hand. The system displayed that the demonic material was being devoured to grant him the Cloud Warrior King title, boost his bone-chilling physique, and let him thrive in freezing cold while his defenses rose, leaving him shocked to see the absorbed evil instantly turn into a new card. I can strike them down, eat them up, and make them part of my crew. Suddenly, a terrifying thought struck Chan out of nowhere. This felt different from the time he sucked up power from the Demon King Manhwa back then. The way I'm soaking up this monster's power is just like it happened before. He finally realized the terrifying strength of the Demon King Manhwa. I took the devouring power that was originally his. Every job has a fixed power level, so each person gets just one job to keep forever. But now, he was working 2 different jobs at once. If I can eat other demonic beasts, I could take on 100 different jobs. Tim couldn't stop himself from wondering how he'd ended up with such power, so he glanced back at the demonic tower behind him to ask himself what exactly it was. All of a sudden, a crushing weight slammed down and made his knees give out. Chan froze in shock as that terrifying aura washed over him, leaving him confused and wondering what was happening. From far away, a figure stepped into view with a deep voice calling out, "You're finally here, I've waited a long time," revealing itself as a powerful Lord-class monster that already knew Shen's name. The government sorts awakened humans and beasts from weak to strong, with S being the most powerful, so Chen gripped his lightning blade tightly, terrified that facing this S-rank beast with only his D-rank power was like walking into a monster's mouth, especially since it knew his name after surviving dozens of deadly blows where it could have easily killed him. But every blow missed his weak spots, only knocking him down over and over again. He was launched far across the ground and fought hard to stand up again. The Lord spoke with a chill voice while still fighting hard. Chen knew exactly what it wanted, to bring him down. The Lord pleaded with him to stay and guard the tower, calling it a rare chance, but he flatly refused, saying he wouldn't set foot in that cursed place no matter what. Suddenly, a blade-like force shot up from the ground and sliced right across his shoulder. Fresh blood sprayed everywhere, as the Lord nearly lost his patience, growling that he would kill you unless you admit you're the only one who can reach this place. Holding his hurt arm tight, he quietly looked for a way to escape. The Lord flooded him with a final burst of power and energy, giving him one last shot, so I'll ask you one more time. A huge piece of the ground shot up into the air, standing tall and mocking everyone below by asking if they wanted to stay or be crushed, while Zichan stepped forward and declared his choice, letting lightning cover him as he rushed the enemy to save you. The Lord threw huge boulders at him, but Zan laughed ridiculous and danced lightly across each rock, slowly closing the gap. He already had his own plan, a path he'd seen clearly from their earlier talks. Before every slash, he had a 0.4-second pause to watch the blade's angle from the wrist, guess its path and slip out of the way. Most crucially, every punch was followed by a half-second pause before the character could react again. If he hit that opening, he could strike right when they were caught completely off guard. Flash with the lightning blade to tear straight through its heart before anyone can blink. He remembered how lightning can be shaped into a blade that deals critical hits, paralyzes enemies by striking weak spots, and even if he couldn't kill Shrank, a powerful strike would at least freeze it in place for a few seconds. It was moving so fast that I didn't have time to get away back there, but those few seconds are just enough to let me slip free. Sen sped toward the lone pillar of light, for during their battle he had watched everything and seen that it was the only source of illumination. Right as his fingers were about to feel the light, it suddenly disappeared. Shen was stunned as the light vanished right before his eyes. The Lord laughed with cold air, but that was just a trick I left behind, because the way out you seek never existed and this place isn't a dungeon. It kept going, but you spotted the cracks in my attacks faster than I expected, which was quite fascinating. Even when everything felt hopeless, you stayed cool, figured out what was happening, and gambled it all for a tiny chance at hope, proving you have the power to make things change. The final message rang out, revealing that this dark spot was the Asura Purgatory. Shin froze in shock, staring at that familiar shape he'd once seen on the Demon King Manhwa. Jan didn't even hesitate, he just swung his lightning blade right at the Asura. Suddenly he remembered that he had faced the Demon King Manhwa in a final battle during his past life. That guy had jumped from one powerful job to the next, never staying in a single role for long. From fire-based jobs that turned everything to ash, to wood-based ones where living vines became weapons that wrapped around and attacked enemies. Then the lightning types unleashed swirling storms of electricity all around. Shen thought to himself, I remember it so clearly. One of the forms matched exactly what he saw, as the URI creature stared at him calmly like a defeated enemy, causing Shen to realize the terrifying truth. He had once been swallowed by Lanua's power, which had now merged with him, and he boldly gasped in shock that this place might actually be inside his own body. The user let out an impressed "oh," his voice brimming with admiration, seeing not only amazing fighting skills but also a razor-sharp mind, so he smiled and said, "You deserve to claim everything here." Zhan stood frozen, staring at the strange world around him. Suddenly, a key materialized in the Asura's hand, glowing with a faint ancient light. As he revealed it was the legendary SSS-grade Time Rift key, the sole tool capable of opening the Demon Tower's gate. The user kept going, saying that Lanua ate many fierce demons, and the toughest ones are now trapped inside the tower behind me. Chen still hadn't accepted it, so he carried on with his power. As his body slowly turned into smoke, he whispered just before disappearing, "From now on, you must get stronger, open the Demon Tower's gate, and eat everything inside. The demons inside will show you no mercy like I did, for they are the most cunning and vicious creatures in the world. But you have to keep going through everything, wipe out your enemies, and climb all the way to the very top of this world. Finally, eat every last Demon King, for that is the only way to become worthy, even as your body falls apart into dust with your final breath." With his last bit of strength, the user's body fell apart into dust, and a burst of pink energy shot up from the ashes to fly straight at Sek Chen. He lifted his hand to catch what was coming. And with a system update pushing him to level 14 and 2 rare bones in hand, Sek Chen clenched his fist and whispered a vow. "I'll hold on to that piece of you inside my heart." Then he got a new card called Purgatory, which sucked the strength from dead bodies and the land around him to make it his own, while its 3 deadly phases twisted gravity to smash enemies with light, heavy, and crushing blows. So Sen clenched his fist and vowed, "They will pay in blood for the blood they shed," before waking up as a fresh new day began. The first light of day poured through the dorm window. A familiar shout echoed in his ears, demanding, "Hurry up, get up already." Chen jolted awake to find the top bunk neatly made, while 2 Shang boys in uniform were already by the door, rushing each other to finish getting ready for their school uniform day, leaving him dazed as he realized he was finally back in the dorm. Ting quickly checked the cut on his shoulder to find it completely healed, leaving him wondering if the last terrifying moment had just been a dream. But when he checked the system panel, he found a clear answer confirming that everything in the dream was real and that all his rewards now existed in reality. "I can't believe I leveled up to 10 in just one night, but what grade is that supposed to match up to?" Jiangzu stepped right up, looked down, and spoke with a sneer. "Last night, someone was praising you, and now you're so strong you're even shaking my spot as the dorm's top dog." Malong stood perfectly still and silently shouting to himself, "We have to move, the big test is starting right now. Let me see how much you're worth," Xiangzhou muttered as he took a bite of bread and sneered. "Our dorm is all at rank E, but remember that every rank has its own levels, so you guys are just at the low stage while I'm at the middle stage. The space between us is huge, and I could easily take on 10 of you, do you get that? Who knows, maybe after 2 long years of ignoring my grades, I found out they'd actually improved." Malong whispered to Chen, "Show your full power later and scare him with that D-rank skill," and Chen smiled, asking back, "Dear Ho," but just as their group reached the central training field, Jiangzu lit up in shock and dismay. On the big stage, a sign announced the National Awakened University Grade Assessment Ceremony, and while Xiangzu wondered why the crowd was gathering so early, Gong Changyang's arrogant lackey shoved through them, only to be startled by Chen's icy glare from right behind him. The 2 lackeys spotted Si Chen and immediately stiffened up like frightened cats. They all bowed together at a perfect 90-degree angle, and the big brother named Chen was finally there. Xiangzu couldn't figure out why everyone was so polite to Kit Chen and wondered if Mong had been right, leaving Malong ready to gloat and remind them all he told them so. Ian didn't bother arguing, said nothing, and just kept walking. He stopped dead in his tracks when someone stepped right in front of him. Jiang Dai, a student council officer with hands on her hips and a mocking tone, told me she heard someone fight with Gong King yesterday. Did you know that Gong King, our respected student council president, actually has a little brother who is his real sibling? The people around whispered in fear. That's Zhang Dai, the student council officer. Xiangzu couldn't believe it, thinking Zhang Dai was just a lackey and a high-ranking official, yet somehow he was connected to Sin too. But why did the mood turn sour? Zhang Dai sneered, "My nose is sharp, and while I can smell a beast, you just reek of a lifetime at the bottom." He leaned in close to whisper, "Are you a dog?" His anger snapped back when he realized what he said, and Gong Ting stepped in calmly to tell him to stand down, explaining that Gong Changyang had started it all. "If you mess up, you have to pay the price, which is exactly fair." So Jiang Dai lowered his guard, reluctantly bowed his head, and said, "Yes, President." He quietly studied Chan from across the room. Chan kept his cool face as he watched his opponent, not even flinching. On the stage beside the big testing machine, the teacher called out, "Students, grades are about to start. We'll go by ID number, so when your name is called, please walk up to the stage quietly." Gong Ting turned to Jiang Dai and said it was time to get ready for their assessments, so Gang Dai quickly switched to a fawning smile, nodded, and hurried after him, thinking to himself that this Sek Chang fellow wasn't looking threatening at all. From a tall building nearby, Ling Wu watched the assessment area below. Beside her, someone asked curiously why the sudden interest in watching the grade assessment today, having finally found someone worth your time. That smile told me this story was going to get really interesting. Now, an hour later, their dorm was finally called, and the room erupted in cheers as Xiangzuo stepped up to face the next big test with his brother shouting, "Go for it, Xiangzuo." He stepped up, jammed his hand into the machine, and thought, "Now I'll show you just how strong I really am." The machine came to life, pausing for a second to get its bearings. The grade assessment happens one-on-one inside a special dungeon that holds a demon core, a power-hungry energy heart. The awakened ones must pour all their power into the demon's heart. The demon core sends its energy out through the cables. Big screen finally showed the data, revealing the final result, a mid-stage grade. The teacher spoke in surprise, noting that the recording was done but the other data wasn't ready yet. Along's heart raced as the most important moment was finally approaching. Si Chen thought quietly, realizing that besides his current rank, the assessment also measures his future potential, because those with the greatest promise often catch the nation's eye, and now that the evaluation was finished, Qingzuo slunk back looking defeated, thinking his grades had stalled for 2 years, only for the teacher to call his name next, right after Malong. Malong stepped forward to comfort his friend, telling him to relax because they were in an even worse situation than he thought. He cheerfully added that they were all in the same boat, but when the next student, Shang Yu, showed a low barrier and C potential, followed by Shang Shuo with a mid-stage barrier and C potential, then Malong's confident claim that few D rankers existed this year, the mood shifted until a sudden announcement shocked everyone. A student had just achieved a low-stage D barrier with the highest potential of B, causing joy to explode through the hall, before Jiang Dai himself emerged to reveal the same low-stage D barrier and high potential, confirming the first D rank of the year had appeared. Malong covered his face so he couldn't watch the 8th deer rank. 2 teachers chatted about how this year's graduating class is packed with talented deer, even the ones who haven't fought much yet, promising that the final exams will be a real thrill. The announcement of the next grade assessment echoed, and Gong Ting calmly walked toward the testing machine. Everyone held their breath in eager silence until his turn finally arrived, revealing the student council president, a chosen one with the privileges of an imperial heir. Tingen stood there in silence while the others were around. Whispers spread around him, and I learned he only earned a deer rank 2 years ago, beating the current batch's best low-stage D score and the school's all-time record of mid-stage D, leaving everyone wondering just how far he could climb. As someone stepped into the testing chamber, the eye inside slowly cracked open. Gong Ting slowly reached his hand out to the demon's heart. He whispered to himself that the true display of power would come during the graduation exam, so for now he had to hold back a few levels of strength. Even so, I'm still going to be the greatest in school history, and as my grade and potential glow brighter and brighter, they shine with a dazzling white gold light. The teacher whispered with a puzzled smile, that color, just as the final results appeared. The whole crowd gasped in shock as the peak at upper stage D reached its limit. Jiang Dai cheered, for the school's record holder was no surprise to anyone who knew why he'd become the eternal president. Our school actually produced a potential genius, which makes us so jealous because we're watching history happen. The teachers huddled together to discuss their findings, and the results confirmed that Stage D is a possibility, so they decided to report straight to the higher-ups right away. One explained that an awakened S potential is a world-class treasure that demands special national attention and protection. Not to mention he's the young master of an imperial guild, a fact that will soon splash across every newspaper in the country. Up on the high floor, the person next to Ling Wu stared in awe, realizing that today's test had truly uncovered a genius. You already knew Gong Ting was a great pick, so it makes perfect sense that you came just to watch the drama unfold. Ling Wu shook her head softly and said, "No, I'm not here for him." She gave a small sad smile and looked away, trusting her fate to someone else. Against Gong Ting, the voice boomed, "I'm way more eager for his show," and then it was time for Si Chen's big test. Finally, the person Ling Wu had been waiting for showed up, but Jiang Dai brushed right past him and mocked the kids, telling them they better give it their all to bring honor to the dorm. He sneered, warning that getting your results later might leave you stuck in low stage E again, turning your whole dorm into a chaotic mess of 4 earrings from low to mid, while the top of the school gets all the glory. Jiang Dai sneered at the whole group, calling them weaklings who would only embarrass themselves in the graduation exam, but Malong shouted back with confidence that Sek Chen was about to change their minds, while Si Chen was already stepping through the testing gate on stage. Outside, Shangzuo worriedly asked, "Shen, do you think he can really make this work?" as he calmly walked up to the floating eye, which was hanging in the air by a mess of cables. It cracked open its shell to look at the entrance ahead. A fiery red light flashed in Sek Chen's eyes as he thrust his hand forward, knowing deep down that in this age, the only way for an awakened person to truly grow was to join a top-tier guild. For most people, the graduation combat exam was their only real shot to prove their strength to the high-level guilds. With only 10 people allowed per team, and free choice of members, the exam wasn't just about grades but decided everyone's future, because the winning group would be directly hired by the nation's top guilds. While outside, Yongdai excitedly introduced boss Yan Lin, who was currently at the low stage D. He kept rambling until our team of 10 was finally ready, with all 9 low stage Ds and your little brother Gongchang joining us to make sure we crush the combat exam. You're the MVP, President, since Sen got the idea that picking the strongest teammates leaves the weakest ones behind for the graduation fight. When the strong stick together, the weak get pushed aside and left behind, because that is how survival works. Mong's eyes were drooping from waiting so long, and he couldn't help but wonder just how long Shen had been stuck in there. For him, the screen stays dark and still, showing nothing but silence. Someone sneered that Shen's power was too weak to matter, so Jiang Dai suggested skipping the rest of the test since their team was already full and heading to karaoke instead, while Gong Ting reminded everyone to gather the group. Suddenly, the screen in front lit up to show Zichan's new rank, upper stage D. The entire place was so quiet it felt like the air had stopped moving. Long exploded with excitement as the upper stage fired up, and he shouted, "I told you I was right." Jungai was completely stunned, but then he realized it was all because of the upper stage D. The inner chime rang out, declaring the grade assessment done and the results ready, only for the upper stage D system to scream that the demon core is becoming unstable and the numbers might be wrong, so it begged for another test. Sen paused to think, realizing that using his basic form without changing classes meant his level 10 strength was as powerful as a top-tier D rank. The update flashed with a job change starting, then finished instantly. He flipped the card to reveal the Cloud Warrior King, and Chen leaned forward with excitement to test out his weakest skill right now. Outside, his grade display began shifting and showed the mid-stage C. The whole room gasped in shock as Sen's grade climbed even higher again. Jiang Dai felt like his eyes were playing tricks on him, staring in disbelief at a C rank that had to be a glitch because it was just ridiculous. Even the teacher was so confused that she said she'd never seen anything like it and couldn't figure out where the system had gone wrong. If the message kept repeating, the system found that the demon core was becoming unstable, the results might be wrong, and it was asking for another test. Chan kept testing with confidence, and it looked like my other two jobs were both set to soar way past Sirang. But the screen buzzed with updates, telling me my job swap was happening and then finally done. He flipped to the Asura card, ready to unleash his strongest power. The card showed the Asura's details, but the testing eye suddenly swelled up as if it had taken too much. Suddenly, it became a spinning whirlpool of power. A huge storm with thundering lightning suddenly filled the sky. The students froze in terror, staring up at the dark end-of-the-world clouds and whispering, "What on earth is happening?" With folded hands, Xiang Yu prayed that today's special sign would become a legendary tale in our E-rank dorm history. Jan's grades and future kept on changing. The teacher stared in shock as the final announcement about the possible S was made, while another potential S was also revealed. Gong Ting's eyes locked on the scene, and the air grew heavy with tension. The system screamed out warnings because it was pushed past its limit. The letter S on the screen faded away, and then a mechanical alarm blared, warning that the system had crashed. 3 S's flashed one after another, hinting at a power so huge it broke the system's limit. The teacher's face turned purple from shock. He scrambled inside, panic rising as the demon core overloaded, and he had to rush in to check it out. The teacher stepped closer and asked if a classmate was okay, but he stopped dead in his tracks when he saw what was happening below. His eyes turned gray and lifeless as he stammered in shock because the demon inside him died. He knelt down to take a closer look and wondered if the pain was just from using his body too much today. He then glanced at the screen, thinking to himself that while he had pushed too far and destroyed the demon core, the result was a pleasant surprise. A new alert flashed as Devour successfully devoured the demon core crystal, revealing that a grade can sense threats within 100 meters and warn everyone, a power so strong that even Sichin was surprised to learn it can eat up the demon core's energy too. He walked calmly out of the testing gate as a green light flashed in Chin's eyes, signaling that the demon core crystal was activating. He looked across the field and saw grades hovering above each person's head. Tian smiled to himself, realizing that now he could peek at everyone's grades, which made things much easier. He realized Gong Ting was hiding his power, but since he was only at mid-level C, that strength wasn't anything special. Just then the teacher stepped out, cleared his throat, and broke the news that the demon core had burned out from overuse, leaving today's tests abruptly paused and Sen's data possibly wrong, but he promised to tell the bosses and let the rest of the students return tomorrow with a new device ready. While the cheering crowd poured praise on Chen, I didn't care at all because I knew the data was right. Our C Chen is a total genius and a legend, so what do you feel like eating today, or should we head back to the dorm? Jiang Dai regained his cool and sneered, admitting he knew the truth. A loser like you couldn't possibly reach C rank, so the equipment must be glitched. He accused you of wrecking the demon core and walking away without a care, calling it irresponsible since you've wasted everyone's time and left them unable to test until tomorrow, demanding to know if you can even make up for that lost hour. A faint crackle of lightning hummed in Secon's hand. A dark thought took hold of him. This man would never quit, so maybe I should end it. Gong Ting stepped up with a scowl and told Jiang Dai to back off, and Jiang Dai instantly froze like he'd been hit by a magic point and fell silent. Gong Ting smiled warmly, reached out his hand and said, "Zhejian, come join my team, let's face the graduation combat exam together. We will surely claim the highest score in history." Tian stared coldly at the hand reaching for him, shocking the distant onlookers who knew he had personally been invited by Gong Ting to join his team. Jiang Dai panicked, realizing that if this guy joins they'd have to kick someone out and scramble to explain to his friends that taking Gong Ting's team basically guarantees them first place. So many people bribed and begged just to get in, leaving everyone wondering what special power he must have that makes them so desperate. Before he could think of a reply, Gong Ting stepped forward with a quiet, steady voice and an air of total certainty, simply saying, "Join my team. We'll tackle the graduation combat exam together and set a new record score." But as Zhang Da's hand trembled while pretending to pat Chen's shoulder in fake goodwill, his forced smile looked more like a grimace before he simply said, "Since that's the case, welcome aboard." Smack! Sen slapped the hand away hard, his voice icy and gold with zero interest. Zhang Dai froze in shock at the flat refusal, while Gong Ting's brow knit with worry at the sudden twist. Zhang Dai erupted, jabbing a finger and screaming, "Do you even know what you're spouting, brat? Our team is the strongest in the entire school." Sen stepped in with a flat voice, cutting him off. "This has nothing to do with me. Shh, you're making too much noise, so please stop bothering me." He turned and spoke coldly to Ma Long and Xiang Yu, saying, "Let's go," while behind him, Zhang Da's face turned red with rage as his teeth ground together audibly. Whispers spread through the crowd, asking if Chen truly had the guts to say no to the powerful student council president, Gong Ting. Maybe he wants to win first place all by himself, but his test shows he's in the middle of a big test, and that means some exciting drama is coming up. Bang and Xiang Yu muttered excitedly, their faces burning with rage and arrogance, ready to kill anyone who dared to stand in their way, while Sex Chen looked on with an insanely bold smile. Ting offered a faint smile, his voice calm as he said there was no problem, noting that Brother Sen seemed to have his own plans from the high-rise building. Yuan Long sighed sadly that the pair won't join forces, ruining his hopes for a new record, while Ling Wu calmly found the situation far more interesting, and Gong Ting, who was always given the best, realized rejecting him was like declaring war on a tough president, all while Zhang Dai fumed down on the field, convinced he only succeeded because of a glitch, and that he was just an idiot. Gong Ting stared coldly at Sek Chen's retreating back, his voice dropping to a whisper as he vowed that even if the odds were 1,000,000,000, he would never let anyone else steal his top spot. He grabbed Zhang Dai by the collar, his voice dropping to a harsh whisper that neither student nor elite could miss, as he coldly reminded them that while they were just students with no real fight, he had secretly cleared countless dungeons alongside him. Seeing Zhang Dai nod frantically with eyes flashing with malice, he challenged him to go teach the insolent boy a lesson. Gong frowns and asks if I look petty, but Zhang Dai panics and insists he didn't mean it that way, so Gong Ting sighs, turns to leave to skip karaoke, and tells the team to handle it themselves since it has nothing to do with him, which Zhang Dai quickly understands before later receiving a message that Chen isn't at school. The underling spoke in a quiet voice. "Yes sir, I heard him say he's going home, and he didn't even eat first." Zhang Dai's face lit up as if the heavens themselves were cheering him on. "Outside school is the perfect spot for me to really get him going." Yin Shuam walked home at a relaxed, easy pace. Memories of his past life returned to him, recalling a disastrous raid in the Saint River country where his elite guild faced an impossibly strong demon. Enraged, the whole guild was destroyed. After bursting out of the dungeon with pure rage, he only remembered one thing from his old life. To find the dungeon where the furious monster hid, Shen rushed to the secret silver monster exchange with a plan to get a huge pile of cash fast. Silva was destined to grow into the biggest monster trading place the nation would ever know. Weapons and gear were the keys to awakening his power, and the exchange market was the perfect place to buy what he needed and sell what he didn't to make quick cash. Shen laid out a few Cloud Warrior fangs on the counter. The staff member picked one up in surprise and asked the young student where he found it, only to be curtly told it dropped from monsters, prompting a nearby female staff member to whisper that they were likely E-rank Cloud Undead parts that could be crafted into staves or ground into powder before the man cut her off and complained that E-rank stuff was useless. He muttered to himself that since our VIP clients are all high status, awakened, and only buy premium D-rank gear or better, it's normal he knows nothing about those cheap E-rank trinkets, and with so few VIPs lately, he couldn't help but wonder when he'd finally get promoted to manager. So unlucky that I always have to deal with these annoying nobodies who bring zero profit, so I'd better pawn this off on the newbie. He stepped back and shouted, "Hey little Lee, here's the rest, do it well, I have high hopes for you," as the female staff took the money, gave it to Chen and asked, "Here's your payment sir, anything else we can help with?" Chen peeked at the cash, seeing that 10,000 would cover his rent for now. He reached into his space and pulled out a huge greatsword. He set it down on the counter and then pointed out this weapon. The female staff gasped in awe at how cool the greatsword was. She glanced over, amazed that the weapon felt like a legendary item, only for the returning staff to scoff at her claim that such power pieces cost millions, reminding her how long she'd been there without even touching one. From the back, a calm but firm voice broke in to say, "He's right, this is clearly not just ordinary gear," and the staff immediately bowed, knowing their boss could always see through things. Qingxi stared at the massive blade and whispered that it was straight out of hell, leaving the two staff members completely stunned by the shocking S-rank rating. Boss Qingxi quickly snatched Chen's hand. His attitude is usually enthusiastic, but he welcomes you, esteemed guest, with a special sense of honor. Follow me to the VIP room, where he added, "Just ask for anything," before Zhen finally arrived. King Sai, the boss of the secret Silver Guild, sat with tea and asked what plans the man had for the special equipment, only to hear Zichen casually offer a price of 1 million, leaving King Sai shocked since such a powerful weapon is worth tens of millions and would make people fight violently just to own it. Even though Xian ignored the advice, he stood his ground and declared, "I want to use this S-rank gear as collateral to borrow 1 million, and I'll pay it back in a month," which left Qingzai completely stunned, wondering how a college student could possibly think of using such an incredible item as security for a loan. It seems he isn't selling this special find because he plans to use it himself, showing a level of maturity far beyond his years and proving he's either a runaway from a wealthy family or a hidden genius, meaning this guy is definitely not ordinary. Wayne, not knowing what Qingsha was thinking, Sen pressed on, offering to pay back the money in a month with 10% extra interest, but Qingsha hesitated and instead ordered the girl named Little Li to step away for the moment. When she left, Qingjia's face changed, and he casually mentioned that since you're attending National Awakened University and its big graduation fight is in a month, the $1 million first prize would be perfect to pay off what you're borrowing. I boldly guess you're so confident that you're ready to take first place. Zichen kept quiet, watching him with a steady gaze. Qingjia stood up and kept thinking, you could wait a month for the prize money, but you're rushing to sell this valuable thing for cash right now, which means you really need the money today and must be backed into a corner to do this. If that's true, I can lend you $1.5 million right now, with no interest for this month. He said it with a generous heart, as if offering a brand new friend. Chen's face betrayed his true surprise, leaving him speechless. Qingxi winked and promised to keep today's secret safe, but invited me to try their exchange next time for the best deals. Zichen couldn't help but admire how sharp Qingxia was, since he guessed my whole story from tiny clues and when he saw I was in a bind, offered me a better deal instead of using me, which is exactly why he later built Secret Silver into the world's best exchange. To take out Furious, he knew he couldn't do it by himself. He needed trustworthy friends, so with a smile he shook hands with him. Once the contract was signed, Chen's account instantly jumped by 1.5 million, and Qingsai smiled with satisfaction. Then he suddenly remembered something and asked, with such a powerful weapon, what will you use for the graduation exam? Do I need to lend you some gear? Zichen shook his head gently, saying we didn't need those rare S-rank items since we already had plenty of top-tier B-rank gear. He pulled out another great sword that looked exactly like the first one. The three of them stood frozen in cold sweat, staring in disbelief as he held two S-rank weapons at once and whispered, "What on earth is this?" Xingjai quickly calmed down to see him off, proving that true heroes often rise from the young. Then he turned to his shouting subordinates, relieved that little Li was holding on to the VIP, and ordered that she be promoted to front manager right away. While ahead, Chen paused mid-step and said, "Oh right, I want to buy some things," he said, though no one could guess what he ended up buying. Time drifted by until Chan left the exchange and reached the Changkou County bus station, where he stood still, quietly thinking about how money had once haunted his unawakened past self when no one would have listened to him. I took on every weird job I could find just to keep rent and food on the table. I had to live as simply and cheaply as I could. Even when the admission letter from the International Central Academy of Arts arrived, I quietly tore it into pieces because I was terrified of becoming a burden to my family. Because of that, my little sister had to leave her dream of going to high school behind and face the real world instead. Glanced left and right like he was looking for something, thinking to himself that it was getting late and Xiao Yan should have been waiting by now. Suddenly a familiar voice called out from behind, reminding me once again that pickups are always at the exit, not the entrance. He scolded playfully while dragging her suitcase, but Si Chen froze in his tracks when he saw that familiar figure. But he didn't notice anything was off and just kept whining, asking why I wasn't helping him with his bags. "Hey Jay, why are you zoning out like that?" she called again. When Xian didn't respond, he suddenly pulled his little sister into a tight embrace, leaving her a bit flustered. She had no idea why, but only Kitch Chen knew the truth, and after 7 long years, I had finally found her again. Xiao Yan, he thought to himself. His sudden hug made his little sister mad, so she jabbed her fingers right into his ribs and asked if he was trying to crush her or if a girl had rejected him lately. As she talked, she carelessly tossed her bag his way, and Sen stammered, "No, not like that. Come on, let's head home." "Home," Xian shouted happily, and the siblings turned to head back together with big smiles. Chen stood behind her, watching his sister walk away with a heart full of love. He silently vowed never to let her suffer again, while at the same time, Jiang Dai was secretly plotting against the Si siblings and told his lackey to follow the route that Si Chen always takes to get home. "We'll wait here in the shadows and spring our trap the second he walks into view. I'm going to make him see what happens when you annoy me." One of the nearby underlings quickly tried to warn President Jiang Dai, who was surrounded by student council members and feared that getting too angry would only give the other guy something to use against them. "I'm going to make sure he can't even take his graduation exam in 2 weeks. As one of the school's greatest cloud assassins, I won't let that brash show-off ruin my reputation." As he talked, he pulled out a strange dagger and walked straight for the place where the Si siblings, Lanhua, were waiting. As Cyan walked, she couldn't stop worrying about her brother, wondering if his strange behavior over the last 2 days was caused by stress from his upcoming graduation exam. Anyway, you probably wouldn't get tangled up in emotions like me, but no matter what, you've got to pull yourself together and remember what you once told me. Life is long, and opportunities will come soon enough. She sang happily. Believe in yourself, and her carefree joy made Chen feel warm inside, but he secretly smiled, knowing she sensed his hidden change while still thinking they were just living their simple life together as before. Do it. Just then, Jiang Da's group slipped quietly up behind them. One henchman confirmed the target, shouting, "Boss, that kid brought his little sister along," which made Jiang Dai's eyes light up with pure joy. Knowing the alley had no cameras meant it was jackpot time for them. He spoke with a happy smile, blissfully unaware that Chen had already felt their presence and realized the student council had dared to arrive. Without a second thought, he slid the earphones into his sister's ears and gave her some instructions. Izio Yan, there's a song I've been obsessed with lately that I keep replaying, so give it a listen. And while she didn't suspect a thing, you'd have to admit it's strange that Gage suddenly got into music. As she spoke, she inwardly recognized that good music carries a person's feelings. Let me get to know you a bit better, G. As C listened to the music, Si Chen readied himself to face Gang Da's crew, instantly realizing their power far surpassed his own. As Si kept listening to the song, the armed group moved forward together to attack. Thin's anger finally burned hot inside him as he remembered how he had lost his last family member in 2160, only to come back to life in 2167 and finally be with his sister again. 7 long years of being separated from family have finally ended. You think you're tough enough to just show up and cause trouble? Without hesitation, he lunged straight at the leader, sending the man flying backward like a ripped sack. That wasn't the end, because Sin pumped power into his fist and blasted the long-haired punk, who instantly lost it. Before the man could even blink, Chen moved so fast he looked like lightning, knocking him and the two behind him to the ground, then slammed a knee into a red-shirted thug's stomach and sent him flying backward. Another man in a black shirt saw this, tightened his fist, and charged forward. Chen caught the punch right out of his hand. Then he quickly followed up with a sharp elbow hit that broke the black-shirted guy's arm right in half. The pain was so sharp he burst into tears and stuttered, "My arm." Before he could finish, he got a solid punch right in the face. His body flew backward like a cannonball. Jiang Dai could no longer hold back his panic as he stared in shock, wondering how such a young kid could be this powerful. Number 54 asked in fear as Xian charged toward him. Tian used his strength and speed to get the upper hand, knocking out the remaining lackeys in a flash. Finally, riding a wave of unstoppable speed, he burst right in front of Jiang Dai. The scared president screamed to pump himself up, while I stood ready as a cloud assassin. "You think you can beat me?" he challenged, lunging with his dagger, only for Si Chen's fist to strike even faster. And a single blow knocked Jiang Dai's face sideways and hurled him backward like a dead dog. Without pausing, Sen used his speed to close the gap while Jiang Dai was still in the air, landing a mountain-shattering punch right on his chin. Teeth and lips were all tangled up in a pool of blood. Once more, his battered body spun and rolled all the way across the ground until it crashed hard into something and finally came to a halt. By now, Jungda's vision had turned all fuzzy. Zichen stepped forward and spoke in a whisper so low it felt dangerous. "I made it crystal clear that you shouldn't make me angry." "What? You don't understand human speech?" Jiang Dai was so scared he almost wet himself, regret washing over him as he realized his bones were broken and his legs went numb. Confirming the test results meant Qichen was definitely not D rank, which made him weakly apologize before Qichen grabbed him, pressed a dagger to his face, and warned, "Shut up, or you die," terrifying Jiang Dai further because his eyes showed Qichen really meant to kill him. Jiang Dai stared in horror, wondering how a mere student could hold such terrifying killing intent and what dark past he might have. Sen glared and shouted one last warning to listen to every word he was about to say. "Do whatever you want, but if you ever touch my little sister or even look at her, I will make you disappear forever, and I mean it." Jiang Dai had no choice but to sob and nod wildly while the threat hung over him. And all satisfied, Sai Chen casually tossed the dagger aside and turned to walk away. Meanwhile, his little sister Si Yan didn't know what just happened and was still lost in the music. Suddenly, tears rolled down her face as the lonely song made her heart ache with a sudden sadness she couldn't explain. It's only been a few days, yet G has already suffered so much, making him feel utterly alone even though I've been right here by his side the whole time. Thinking this, Sean pulled out the earphones and spun around to shout that the prank was way too mean, only to find the protagonist standing behind her with a gentle smile as he handed her a small pen case, causing her eyes to widen in shock at the sight of the glowing golden pen, which was the latest magical instant pen released by the Dorog Corporation. "This thing costs a fortune. Where did you get it, and should we return it?" "It's way too expensive, and I don't like it much," she said awkwardly, though her face clearly showed how much she loved it, while Sen silently vowed to himself that after failing to protect her in his past life, he would now safeguard everything that belonged to her. Behind the two siblings, the thugs who had just been knocked out were desperately clamping their hands over their mouths to stop any groans of pain, terrified that the noise would draw Sek Chen's attention. Time seemed to vanish in an instant before the scene jumped to the C family home, where Sean eagerly tested her new pen by drawing a purple fish that hovered in mid-air, proving just how useful it was to create 3D images floating right in the air. Beside her, Scene happily slurped up noodles and said, "As long as Ikyan likes it, your egg noodles are the best." But she also felt a sad mix of joy and worry about the rent we still have to pay after spending so much. Before she could say another word, Si Chen interrupted her by declaring he'd already paid the full year's rent, leaving Si completely stunned. Knowing he'd been caught, the protagonist quickly tried to cover it up by saying, "Oh yeah, I did a little business with a friend and made some cash," but his obvious lie didn't fool Sean, who realized Gage can't lie at all and is now hiding things from me too. But the happy look on his face. It was ages since she had last seen it. Thinking it over, she softly rested her hand on Si Chen's shoulder and asked, "Hey, no matter what happens, please don't push yourself too hard, okay?" Si Chen turned back and quietly nodded in agreement. In another room, Gong Ting's voice echoed, saying, "This time his wounds are terrible. 6 of his bones are completely broken. Even the finest healers couldn't bring him back to full health in just a month. I never thought he'd chase Seiken and end up like this." Ling Wu sipped her tea with amusement. "Looks like he'll miss the graduation exam." Gong Ting shrugged as if it didn't matter. "No big deal. We just lost someone who wasn't very skilled." Just then, a man stepped into the room. His name was Gong Xuan, the director of career development at National Awakened University, who spoke up to say, "It's Ketch Chen again. I've double-checked the scores from our internal review. There's only one person in the whole school with better grades than you, and that's Kank." Hearing that made Gong Ting look over in surprise. Gong Xuan went on to say that since your dad invited the Alliance's vice chairman to see your graduation show, we just have to make sure you get all the attention. But if things come to that, I'll have my granddaughter fill the empty spot on the Gong Palace team, only for Gong Ting to shock Gong Xuan by telling him not to worry about it at all. They truly believe I gave it my all during the assessment. Don't worry, the combat exam is a day you can handle. I'll show everyone just how truly strong I am. The view shifted back to Ken, who was taking a shower and quietly going over his plans in his head. The grueling 100-kilometer training is done, money troubles are cleared up, and now that graduation is here, I can finally launch the real plan. Now the goal is to smoothly walk away with the Million Champion prize after the graduation exam and pay off Qingxia's entire debt. I must honor my contract with Qingzai because I'll need his help for many things down the road. With just 1 month left until the exam, Si Chen closed his eyes again, determined to level up a few more times. The screen lit up, showing the system starting up and the Devour system coming to life. Chan stood before the familiar red landscape and slowly walked toward the towering tower, his mind racing with non-stop thoughts. The last check revealed that my weakest role, Cloud Warrior King, was only a C rank, while the grades for my Asura Purgatory jobs vanished from the screen. Even though Asura Purgatory is broken, I couldn't unleash its full power earlier, so nobody knows how strong it really is, and that leaves the grades for my other 2 jobs still a mystery. Thinking it through, he pulled out the legendary SSS rank Time Rift key, the only thing that could unlock the Demon Tower's gate, and as soon as it appeared, the ancient doors began to groan wide open. I'm going to try it out today and see what's hiding inside the Demon Tower. With that, he dashed inside the moment he appeared on the other side. Ken stepped out of the gate into a region called the Fallen Star Wasteland and murmured, "This place is," looking around in slight surprise at what he saw before him. The moment his foot hit the ground, his whole body dropped low as if a giant hand had just pressed down on him. He hacked up a lung and shouted, "The gravity here is absolutely insane." The gate vanished, forcing Chen to adapt quickly since he could only use 30% of his power here, just as a purple lion illusion appeared right in front of him. The moment he saw his opponent step out, Shen instantly became a lightning-fast assassin. He clutched a bolt of lightning in his hand, staring right at it and muttering, "So, you're the enemy here," while the fake lion on the other side didn't waste a second and charged straight at him. Luckily, Shen moved fast, dipping low and sliding forward to dodge the attack without a scratch. Immediately after, he unleashed a wild spinning slash at lightning speed, thinking to himself that his body felt too heavy and he had to end this fight fast. But even though his lightning bolt pierced the fake lion's neck, it missed a vital spot and the paralysis didn't work. Shin's eyes went wide in shock because he had completely missed his aim. The heavy weight of this gravity drags me down, making my movements slow and my aim shaky. The lightning assassin has lost its sharp edge, but this monster moves with wild freedom. Thinking these Demon Tower monsters were this strong, Sichin raised his hand to block their bite. Just as I leaped into Asura Purgatory, purple fire erupted from my skin, which made me realize I had to make that switch immediately. Every job shines with its own unique gift, where close-up fighters rely on mighty strength and endless vitality to crush their foes. Kin instantly broke free, using his new powers to push gravity to its limit and unleash the strongest possible impact. He smashed the fake lion's body so hard into the ground that the earth broke apart into tiny pieces. He didn't stop there. He poured all his power into his fist, which became 60 times stronger due to the heavy gravity, making the fake lion below look like it was trembling in fear. Right after Si-chen's fist crashed down like a thunderclap, he roared, "Don't even think about stopping me. This is the Star War Intense skill. 3 phases heavy calamity, ultra heavy mode." With that devastating punch, the ground was ripped apart beyond recognition. Once the dust cleared, time seemed to fly by. A deep crater cut into the ground where the fake lion's head had been crushed into a messy pulp. The system chimed in to tell him he'd found illusionary lion bones, earned 12,000 experience points, and leveled up from 10 to 11, while he lay gasping from exhaustion and thought to himself that every star on the card meant a stat boost, so switching to the star-filled Asura Purgatory would make him even stronger than his current lightning assassin form. But facing just one B-rank monster drained every last drop of my strength, and it seems my 2 jobs still can't break through the barrier. Chan went cold because he realized something, and then he paused to think. Why couldn't the system let you devour the monster this time even after you killed it? The gate to the next floor just vanished, leaving me wondering if it was ever there at all. A scary idea started to grow in his head. Just as he had guessed, a deep crack in space ripped open right behind him. Through the darkness, so many glowing eyes watched Ken directly. Ken spun around with a sinking heart, realizing the man he risked everything to kill was just a minion and the real boss hadn't even shown up. Suddenly, fake lifelines shot out from the crack in the air faster than anyone could ever imagine. Before Chen could move, a monster snapped its jaws shut right on his arm. The others grabbed the chance and tore into him without mercy, and in that split second, Chen finally grasped what purgatory meant. Once the gate opens, endless pain is waiting, and you must survive it all and crush every enemy. After who knows how long, the protagonist suddenly jolted awake from his bed, soaked in sweat from the tension. The agony he just suffered still felt fresh and unhealed, with torn muscles and broken bones making the dream's pain terrifyingly real. There are no easy ways to get strong, so the lonely and hard journey ahead has only just started. Time flew by until it was Friday, May 20th, 2057, when the entire student body had filled every seat at National Awakened University's Grand Auditorium. Of course, Gong Xuan, the head of the career office, couldn't miss out on this either. Among the students, a brown-haired guy raised his hand to say, "Hey, did you hear? The big bosses from the Guild Alliance are coming to watch the graduation combat exam live this time." The person beside him instantly got it, realizing why this year's graduation rules were turned upside down. Back in the day, teams could be any size or grade, but now you need at least 5 members with at least one being stage E or higher, sparking a curious question about whether the show is just trying to be more entertaining. He turned toward Gong Xuan, stepped forward at just the right moment, and began to speak. "Everyone in this group has gotten their wristbands, so take a quick look at them and then race to form your teams." Everyone rushed to look at the bands on their wrists. A holographic screen showed everyone's names and grades, but Long's friend suddenly gasped, "Wait, this is wrong. Chen, why is your grade so low?" Before long, the whole room was whispering about how Ketch Chen had clearly shown a kank but was marked as low stage E, making it clear the machine had glitched and ruining their hopes of teaming up with him. Now that it's over, no one will want to team with him since the graduation exam is too important for anyone to carry low-grade deadweight. He turned down Gong Ting's invitation back then, and he's probably regretting that decision right now. On Gong Ting's side, he stayed silent and just watched his uncle with intense focus. Gong Xuan wore a smug grin while secretly plotting in his mind. "Unfaithful nephew, when did you truly learn how to use power and understand people? Let your uncle teach you, because your opponent won't even get a chance to play." While the crowd buzzed around them, the teacher's voice cut through the noise to remind students to hurry and form their teams fast. Sure enough, right after that, 8 students swarmed toward Gong Ting, barking for a spot on his team with desperate pleas to be chosen. "President, I'm a third-year student who promises never to hold you back, and my healer friend Shang Yi will give our team amazing help, so please let me be your loyal helper." The constant begging became so loud that one of Gong Ting's lackeys finally snapped, shouting, "Shut up and back off, we can't take on more than one extra person." Time flew by, and in just half an hour, everyone had found their teammates and were getting ready to race. Only Chen's team was left struggling with not enough members. Mong sighed sadly, saying that they had asked many people but no one would join them, while his friend gripped his head in despair and worried that they only needed 4 more members to avoid failing the graduation exam, which made Mong immediately realize something strange was going on because Sen's grade showed the worst possible score even though the exam only needed 5 people total, with at least 1 expert. So they are on purpose aiming right at our dorm. From Si Chen's point of view, he quietly studied the situation, knowing that the graduation combat exam was everyone's single shot at proving themselves since a high score meant landing a better job. By the end of the game, the dungeon fills with monsters based on how many friends join, but remember that having a bigger crew doesn't guarantee you'll get the highest score. That is why everyone rushes to join Gong Ting's powerful team and won't even consider the weaker ones. The 3 worst students in the entire school are all stuck in our dorm as low-level E's, but a recruiter suddenly shouted, Hey Shangzuo, we need someone. Don't you want to escape this trash team with 3 useless doormates who'll drag you down so badly you'll fail your graduation exam? These words made Sen's eyes turn serious as he feared they would abandon the 3 low-level E's, leaving them to lose their chance to participate entirely, until Shangzuo gave a shocking reply by saying, "Sorry, really. We've already made a pact to stick together, so I'm not leaving my roommates behind." The recruiter snapped in annoyance, but Xiangzu shot back, "Suit yourself. We just wanted to fill our quota, not have you reject us and feel ungrateful." Back to Ma Long's view, he frantically scanned the class roster again with panic rising in his chest. It seems everyone else has already picked their teams, the high ranks are almost gone, and we're clearly missing one person, but nobody wants to join us. As Si Chen panicked, his eyes suddenly found the true person behind it all. Director Gong Xuan, a member of the powerful Gong family, casually changed the graduation exam rules and tampered with your real score to stop you from teaming up with Gong Ting, thinking that shows how much power they crave. But I'm taking this graduation exam no matter what because you've made it personal. I won't hold back either, proving that my strength isn't just for this exam. The rest of the crowd gasped when lightning suddenly sparked all around Sek Chen. Malong rushed forward to steady him, shouting, "Hey bro, what are you about to do? Sen, what's the plan?" Some folks already had a hunch, knowing Seed had his own secret plan, especially since National Awakened University lets students challenge anyone to a duel anytime to master their skills. It was highly provocative, but allowed the most direct way to showcase true power in front of everyone. Many would refuse such sudden challenges. But Gong Ting definitely